the Superhero Rundown. I'm Lady Jess, and today we're talking all about Daredevil and his Netflix show and how it exactly fits into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, before I delve into Daredevil itself, as most no doubt know, this series is going to be one of 4 centered on the heroes of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, culminating in the Defenders. And at first I was skeptical. But with both Daredevil and Jessica Jones now under my belt, I'm going to be looking forward to Luke Cage. With that in mind, we're going to take a look at Daredevil today. And we're going to start off with probably the most controversial thing I could ever say about Matt Murdock. Catholicism. Yes, Catholicism. Being raised Catholic, I understand the dogma behind it, and I might have found some things more funny than others, but suffice to say, this is really the first hero in the MCU that actually addresses religion on a regular basis.
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
The thing about Captain America, though, is he just mentions God. We don't actually see his religion as of yet, and we understand he's supposed to be at least Christian because he's the ideal of American values of the 1940s. That's Captain America. He can adapt because he's a soldier. Daredevil is different. From the very first minutes of the series, we see that God plays a large role in his life, and it will continue throughout the series.
I'm not seeking penance for what I've done, Father. I'm asking forgiveness for what I'm about to do.
That's not how this works.
He believes in God, and that's important to him. For a majority of the series, Matt Murdock is invited to have coffee and talk with his priest, but he ignores the invitation for the most part, until episode 9. And it really does take it to a place I like.
Still not sure about this mask guy.
He didn't hurt Ben, and he didn't hurt me. I'll take the devil of Hell's Kitchen over Fisk any day. Plus, he kicks ass. No, you should have seen the way that he was flipping around in the rain.
Well, if he's such a badass, why did he come to Ben? Why not just take Fist down himself?
Maybe he knows there's some roads you can't come back from.
There it is. Can Daredevil cross the line, and should he really be crossing the line is the key question here. I'd also like to point out that, like Captain America, Daredevil is very firm in his beliefs and convictions, despite living in a universe where a lot of gods are running around. Later in the same episode, he goes back to the priest, and we see him struggling with the decision of whether or not to kill our villain.
If I let him consume this city, all the people will suffer and die.
There is a wide gulf between inaction and murder, Matthew. Another man's evil does not make you good. Men have used the atrocities of their enemies to justify their own throughout history. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are you struggling with the fact that you don't want to kill this man, but have to? Or that you don't have to kill him, but want to?
Which is especially telling since Jesus behind him wound up being murdered due to inaction, according to some people. Personally, I don't delve into my religious politics, but I will say that Jesus on the cross like that during this conversation is a bit unnerving, but might actually be necessary for the juxtaposition of religion and Daredevil. At one point, Claire, the nurse who patches up Daredevil and later Luke Cage at the behest of Jessica Jones, tells Matt Murdock that murders usually end up being bloody and alone, much like Daredevil himself. I smell an allegory! And can we just take a second to relish in the fact that his priest knows who he is? Because it's just wonderful. And I love that there's this question of how Daredevil could become a symbol and tread the path of the righteous, which is what he does by the end of the series, and it's perfect. Also, said priest points out,
A friend of mine says that if I don't change the way I do things, and the way I live my life, I will end up bloody and alone.
You believe that?
I'm not afraid of dying.
A lot of people aren't. Comes right down to it. It's living scares the holy crap out of them.
Immediately after that exchange, Daredevil asks if there's a possibility of a devil inside him. The priest responds maybe he's supposed to be a symbol and tread the path of the righteous. I also like how Foggy and Matt's relationship works. They joke about his blindness, which shows that they're good friends, and that blindness is not going to be used as a crutch in the series, and they show him using it for good. Obviously, it has to be brought up, but it isn't in the vein of, oh, woe is me. It's more in the vein of, huh, so that's a thing he's experiencing. He does use the blindness to explain away injuries, which is technically lying, but hey, he's trying to come to terms with a lot of shit while he transitions into becoming Daredevil. Obviously, this is not an excuse for him, but he is trying, and he does make mistakes. He's human, after all, even if he does have superpowers. And from the first, Daredevil is hinted at being a hero because he saves an old guy and gets blinded in the process. The black suit he wears throughout the series makes him appear to be more menacing depending on the scenario, but the red suit really shines through, especially since they give an in-universe explanation for it. I'm not going to delve too much into the plot. Remember, this is a series about the tropes and about what people can identify with. So far, we've identified with religion, friendship, and the balance of being a good person versus a bad person. And given that Wilson Fisk is in the mix, there's a bit more to Hell's Kitchen than meets the eye, and I love how gritty it is. Daredevil is mostly set at night, with some scenes, particularly lawyer scenes, set in the daytime, and Daredevil gets patched up looking like the morning after to me, patching up and trying to move on from the horrible beating you took. I also like how they flashed back to Daredevil's past. It feels more natural, and you can really tell that it has something to do with the current events, unlike some series I can mention. Daredevil's flashbacks don't drag on forever. They show what needs to be shown, and the show goes back to the present to deal with whatever's happening in the moment. Inevitably, there was a tie-in with the Avengers as in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Daredevil mini-universe makes use of the word incident as an issue. And while S.H.I.E.L.D. travels the country, Daredevil lives there, in New York City. And for those who don't know, 9/11 happened in the Marvel Comics Universe 616. Spider-Man saw the devastation there. Man, living in New York City sucks. I'm so glad I moved out of there when I had the chance. Now I live closer to DC, where Captain America put a helicarrier through a building while dismantling S.H.I.E.L.D. Fuck it! I'm moving to Latveria, call Dr. Doom! But by far, the greatest performance in this series for me was Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. And man, was I impressed. Not just because he's imposing, but because they did his backstory in an episode, and you sympathize with him on some level. You see the vulnerability of the supervillain, and that's rare, and it's well done, which is even rarer. Obviously, killing your father to protect your mother is morally questionable, but the way it's shown is so masterful, you can't help but feel sorry for the guy. And when he beats the fuck out of Daredevil, it's just as brutal because it's Wilson thinking he's doing the right thing as he beats the hell out of a hero. And it's visceral to watch. Wesley is Wilson's right-hand man. He's loyal to a fault, and I love that he's the one who asks this.
What about the masked idiot?
Which is how I think most villains feel about their heroes. In any universe, I don't think Wesley is inherently evil. Far from it, actually. I feel like he likes being the right hand of the devil, and that doesn't make you evil, it makes you pragmatic. He tries to comfort Fisk when Vanessa is poisoned, and Fisk goes fucking ballistic and beats the fuck out of a guy when he finds out Wesley's dead. They have a solid friendship, and saying, well, he's the villain, kind of makes it feel like a cop-out. Villains can have friends. I mean, Stalin doesn't have any friends, but I'm sure some evil villain out there does. Maybe Dr. Doom? Baron Mordo? Ooh! Fing Fang Foom! No! You know who has friends, probably? Thanos. I bet you Thanos has some friends. And even before Wesley dies, he talks about the paths we choose to Karen, who shoots him after the speech. But that doesn't make him a bad guy. Wesley is loyal and trustworthy, qualities we look for in our friends. Which brings me to the relationship of the season. Vanessa and Wilson. They progress like a real relationship. Vanessa has doubts, but Wilson doesn't press his luck. She brings a gun to the second date, and it's no big deal.
Sometimes it requires force.
I know you're a dangerous man. That's why I brought a gun to a dinner date.
Would you like to leave?
No. I'd like a reason to stay.
As the series progresses, she stands by him and supports him, and when he tells her about his past, she reacts with sympathy. He was a child protecting his mother. Wilson treats her right. He genuinely wants her to like him, and he learns how to figure out Vanessa because it leads them to better things. You know, until Daredevil helps to land him in jail, but she leaves town knowing that he loves her and wants her. Vanessa asks that he always be honest with her, and he is, and she respects him for it. Sure, he's the villain, but Vanessa doesn't care about that. She pushes him into the right direction and has him go public. She and Leslie are his rocks and strength because they are there for him when no one else is. And for the record, she got poisoned while he was away from her, so obviously the safest place for her is at his side, which is still true. Daredevil as a hero is rough, and not in the way that you're thinking. I mean, it is a superhero detective lawyer story, but it's a little bit more than that. The opening credits make the city look drenched in blood. Blood Daredevil has to clean up, and it works. It looks great, and the dark tone of the music is fantastic. Daredevil is about always being a work in progress.
You gonna listen to me this time?
Where am I?
You're in my apartment.
Who are you?
I'm the lucky girl who pulled you out of the garbage.
You see my face?
Yeah.
Great.
Your outfit kind of sucks, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that. Most of us are. We find ways to keep going even if we don't think it's worth it. Daredevil thinks it's worth it. He's like Batman, but not as douchey. Which is weird because Daredevil's Catholic. Which I say is a douchey Catholic. I mean, he's about rough around the edges, even if he's a self-admitted sadist.
I need you to know why I'm hurting you. It's not just the boy. I'm doing this because I enjoy it.
And he does make it about helping people, so that's nice. He's also a sarcastic man.
Don't move. You've been shot. That sounds pretty bad, but I don't speak asshole.
And he does use his powers to save someone he doesn't like, even if the guy sacrifices himself later on. And the central conflict for Daredevil is telling his friends. He loses Foggy because he isn't straight with his friend. Foggy does come back, but after some real hard convincing. Obviously, Foggy isn't happy about Matt lying, but Matt genuinely thinks that it's protecting those he cares about. Iron Man came out and said, "Hey, I'm Iron Man," and now the world knows. And the second Iron Man movie was about a guy from Russia hearing the damn press conference, then trying to kill him. The motivation for revealing your true identity as a superhero isn't exactly an incentive. And the other issue here is vigilantism versus the law. I already brought up the real-life vigilantes in my Arrow episode, but Daredevil is a vigilante and Matt Murdock is a lawyer. Law is the name and they are the same person and it creates conflict, but it works. Corruption in the law is an important thing to address, but Daredevil works outside the law and gets things done the law can't. There is a paper trail, but that doesn't mean the courts aren't corrupt and that people haven't been bought off, and Daredevil ends up proving that. So much so that the only non-corrupt cop forms a sort of understanding with him after Daredevil knocks out Kingpin. They know that they're allies, but they also know that vigilantes aren't exactly welcome either. The series received high praise, and there might be a slight possibility for the Russos to call on the Defenders during the Infinity War against Thanos, but who knows? In the age of fast-changing media, the Hell's Kitchen heroes at least have a home on Netflix. Next time, we're going to piss off all those MRAs and talk about Jessica Jones and rape culture.